Welcome back to Ontario Cryptids, everyone, and Happy New Year. I hope 2025 is treating you well so far. Today, I have 5 incredible stories to share that are sure to captivate and amaze you. Trust me, you won't want to miss a single one. If you've got one of your own encounter stories to share, I'd love to hear it. Send it to ontariocryptids@gmail.com and it might be featured in a future video. If you're new here or just haven't clicked that subscribe button yet, now is the perfect time to join this amazing community of like-minded individuals, so you'll never miss out on the fun. Let's dive in and make this year unforgettable together. So sit back and relax as we begin with today's episode. We were returning home last night and 2 members in our vehicle said, "Look, is that a bear?" The person in the front seat saw what looked like a huge man standing on 2 legs. It bent over and fell to 4 legs. The person in the back seat saw the animal on 4 legs. They both said it was not a bear. It is winter this time of year and bears here in the interior of the Kootenays are hibernating. We live nearby. We got home and all 4 of us decided to go back and look for tracks. We went and filmed and took photos of a whole bunch of massive tracks that look like they are from a biped animal. We felt like we were being watched as we examined and videoed the tracks. We live near Silverton, British Columbia in Canada. We have also been walking in the woods near our home, and one time I saw a structure, a setup of trees that looked deliberately placed in a different crisscross arrangement. I also heard deep resonant sounds one night right after we first moved into our new property near Silverton, BC. It sounded part human, part animal. I was at home working on my computer. I just logged off when I heard a very loud wood knock. Not sure what it was, so I dismissed it. Then it happened again. A minute later, there was another. This happened 2 or more times and then it stopped. The next morning I called my mother, who lived in a ranch house next door and where I live now after her passing. She said she had heard nothing and that my stepdad would have gone out with a firearm to see if there was anything there, if either one of them had heard anything unusual. They left later that morning on an RV trip. I went to check a creek that runs behind the house and runs on the ranch for some length. I found impressions in wet grass. It had been foggy and drizzly that night, with a 4-foot stride between them. The impressions were about 15 to 16 inches long. I followed the impressions to a rocky area where there is a pad for an old railroad bridge. The railroad was taken out in 1937 and nothing else was found. Since it was late afternoon and it began to get dark, and with only a firefighting axe scraper to defend myself, I did what anyone else would do. I went back the way I came. I was out in an old, supposed haunted farmhouse built in the 1700s with my best friend at around 11 p.m. We are in our early 30s. We were going to the spot by the lake where people have seen the ghost of a woman. We were about 20 yards from the bench where people usually see her when a heavy rock flew in front of us into the lake and we heard it hit the rocks under the water. I immediately turned my flashlight on and looked around the field from which it came, but nothing was seen. This field is about knee-high grass that the rock came from. My friend wasn't a believer of ghosts or anything paranormal, but he was in shock and believes something other than a person threw the rock. We left immediately and felt like we were being followed back through the long, dark trail. I can't say for sure what it was, but it's a creepy spot, especially at night, and it's pretty ironic that the rock got thrown exactly where the spotting of ghosts have been. There are reports of Bigfoot in Nova Scotia, and the place where this happened in the field is right beside a huge trail system through the woods and on a lake. Not sure if this is a useful story or not. Thought I'd share it though. I was bow hunting with my son's friend late September. I was in a tree stand about 200 yards from Greg, who was on the ground along a deer trail. Just before dark, I began to hear a noise that I can only describe as a human-like and sort of screaming and yelling, but no language or words, just a primal scream of sound at a pitch that seemed like a man or mature male youth. I thought, oh my God, a bear is mauling Greg. I immediately exited the tree stand and began running to Greg's location. About halfway there, I met Greg on the trail. He was spooked out of his wits. I asked him if that was him. He said no, and pointed where the sound came from. It came from an area sort of between us and a bit to the side, so it could not have been much more than 100 yards away. We got the heck out of there and returned home to tell our story to my son. Earlier that fall, my son and I found a strange-looking deer kill. It was neatly laying along a trail in a dense spruce stand. All that was left was a torso and head with no legs. The spine was neatly exposed for most of the upper back, and we could not find a hair, a drop of blood, scuff marks, nothing in the area. So we thought maybe a cougar dropped it there because there was a few spotted around the area. I have seen many wolves and coyote kills, and there is always a mess nearby. First, I'm a skeptic, but I'm willing to be open-minded. Secondly, I ski Wachusett and I hike there, so I'm very familiar with the terrain and trails. So this past week, I have been hiking up the road just before sunset and hiking down the road, leaving the top about 5 to 10 minutes after sunset. First night, I'm coming down and I stopped under the chairlift where the road crosses 10th Mountain Ski Trail. This is the upper road crossing. Looking upslope, I notice a dark shape standing to the left of the lift tower, probably 400 feet above me. My thought is, what is that? I thought it might have been a bear, but it would have been way too big to be a bear. Or it was a piece of equipment next to the tower. I watched for a while and no movement. I shrugged and moved on. Second night, 2 days later, I walked the same hike and I stopped in the same place on the 10th Mountain Trail and looked for the dark shape near the tower. It isn't there. I didn't see anything, but I did smell an animal kind of odor, not overpowering, but you couldn't miss it. Day 3, same kind of hike. As I was hiking down, I noticed 3 deer on the conifer trail. They were not nervous but aware of me. I moved down to the 10th Mountain Trail to see if I could see anything. On the military crest of the slope, right where the flat section of the trail has a sharp drop-off, I saw a large dark shape move from my left to the right for a few feet, then made itself small like it squatted down. I saw what looked like the head and shoulders. I did not see any further movement or smell any odor. I headed down the road back to the parking lot. As I got close, I heard a branch snap on my left in the woods, and then a few feet later, I heard a branch snap on the right. So, while I am a skeptic, it was intriguing enough that I would share it. I have been thinking about the tree branch break sounds I heard near the bottom of the Wachusett Road. This happened on the third night after I saw movement high up the 10th Mountain Trail. If you look at a map, there is a straight line shot down the ski trail where two Bigfoots could have moved back down to the road without being seen by me and placed themselves on each side of the road to wait for me to pass. The road after from where it crosses the upper 10th Mountain ski trail continues west for a third of a mile before it hits a hairpin turn and then heads a third of a mile back to the parking lot. My point is, there was an easy opportunity for Bigfoots to get to the near end of the road and wait for me before I got there. Well, that's going to be all for today. Thank you all so much for sticking with me until the end. I hope you found these 5 encounter stories as fascinating as I did. If you love content like this and want to support the channel even further, consider becoming a channel member and receive exclusive perks and weekly chats. Now, let's acknowledge the current OC members. I would like to thank Elizabeth, Jim, Diana, and Teresa for the contribution and support as members of the OC membership program. Your support is truly appreciated. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the perfect time to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss out on another episode. Again, if you have an encounter story that you would like to share, send it to ontariocryptids@gmail.com. I would be honored to share your story with the OC community. Wishing you all have a fantastic weekend, and don't forget to tune in next week for another exciting episode on Ontario Cryptids. See you then.